my beloved child. Now, as your heart rests in stillness and your spirit opens to the deep sacred things, allow me to tell you a story. Your story. It begins in the realm of eternity, where I wove your soul together from the purest strands of light. You were not created to be just another voice in the crowd. You were never meant to conform to the standards of this world or contort yourself to fit the warped mold society has built. You are different, not because you sought it, but because I breathed into you a radiance that cannot be concealed. From the very beginning, that light set you apart. Even at first glance, others could sense something in you they could not name. You are not merely existing. You walk with a presence that causes the spirit realm to take notice. When you arrive, darkness trembles, not because you shout, but because you carry a light that cannot be imitated, a power that does not come from striving, but from the one who sent you, me. Then something unexpected happened, something that defied reason, something that silenced both heaven and earth. One who belonged to the darkness was drawn, captivated, and touched by the very light within you, not because you dimmed your light to blend in with the shadows, but because you refused to, because you were everything they longed for yet could not possess, everything they feared yet could not turn away from. You became a living reminder that no matter how thick the darkness, a single beam of light can spark a quake. That soul, once consumed by shadow, was not swayed by arguments or power, but drawn to the undeniable truth in you, not to perfection, but to truth, not to loud proclamations, but to the quiet that carried peace. You became the living proof of a truth they had long forgotten, that light is real, and that someone still walks this earth carrying it in pure form. Do you know this? Souls like yours are not common. I only send them into the world during crucial times, when the earth teeters between two edges, rebirth or ruin. And every time I send someone like you, the darkness shudders. For it knows that true light, once revealed, always causes disruption. It exposes deception, reveals what has been buried, and uncovers the most hidden of schemes. And it is afraid. Yet at the same time, because of that light, even souls of the shadow are stirred. Convinced, drawn toward the purity that only one called from heaven can carry, you didn't change that one. But the light within you awakened something the darkness could never kill. The longing to be free, the yearning to live in truth, the desire to return to what was original, which they had lost so long ago. While others waver in the tension between darkness and light, fear and courage, you, with an unwavering heart, have chosen to stand. You did not retreat. I saw that. I witnessed every moment you chose truth over compromise, righteousness over convenience, unconditional love over harsh judgment. You are not shaken by the violent winds. You are not swayed by venomous words. You do not bow under pressure, nor do you lose yourself in isolation. You stand, not by your own strength, but by mine, which flows through you like an underground stream that never runs dry. That stream is what holds you steady when everything else seems to collapse. When darkness believed it had filled the atmosphere, when mocking laughter assumed you would soon grow weary and give in, there you stood, with eyes ablaze with a faith that cannot be extinguished, still unwavering, still bearing the light. And then, the unimaginable happened. For the first time, the one who crowned himself as the ruler of deceit fell into the trap of his own making, a trap woven from arrogance, deception, and hollow power, became the very snare that turned back upon the one who had set it. Why? Because he never expected that someone like you, a soul such as yours, would dare to face him, would dare to look darkness in the eye without trembling, would dare to stand in the middle of a spiritual storm with your lamp still burning bright. You are the exception. You are what he never accounted for. He thought you would bend, but you straightened even more under pressure. You are the living proof that true light not only exists, it can blaze with brilliance in the darkest of places, and that confounds him. When he attacked, you did not fall. When he prowled, you did not panic. When he spun his web of lies, you stood firm in truth and brought him into the light. You do not need to be someone famous or powerful by human standards. It is your quiet courage that makes the enemy tremble. You do not need to shout, for your very presence, steadfast, pure, whole, is a voice that cannot be denied. You are the embodiment of what darkness can never grasp, a free soul, ungoverned by fear, untouched by empty titles. And do you know this? Your steadfastness not only shakes the kingdom of darkness, it also ignites a flame of hope in the hearts of many others. There are souls watching you, from a distance, in silence. And because of your unwavering stance, they have found the faith to rise. You do not realize it, but your refusal to collapse has inspired others not to give up. Your brave steps through the forest of swords have carved a path for those still searching for the light. Your courage is not something that can be taught. It comes from a deep encounter with the one who created you. You know where you belong, and so you do not fear loss. You know who walks with you, and so threats do not shake you. You do not live to please men, but to bring delight to me. And that alone makes you a warrior no one can defeat. You do not even know that when you kneel in prayer in the middle of the night, angels are fighting alongside you in the spirit realm. You do not see all that happens when you stay silent under slander, but I do. You are unaware of how layers of darkness peel away from another soul when you speak a word of encouragement, but I see it all. And I promise you, not a single one of your actions is in vain. Not one prayer of yours falls into the void. O you who are anointed by my own hand, O soul called out from among the multitudes to be a bearer of light in the darkest hour, do you grasp the miracle unfolding in the unseen realm because of your presence? You may feel as though you walk in silence, as though you are but a speck of dust amidst the great affairs of the world. But I tell you this, every step you take on this earth is a fracture in the foundation of the kingdom of darkness. Every time you choose love over hatred, forgiveness over vengeance, patience over outburst, you drive a sword through the vile schemes of the enemy. You have caused a being once immersed in darkness to waver because of the light that radiates from within you. A soul once accustomed to schemes, one that deceived countless minds and sowed much suffering, was brought to a halt in the face of your purity. Not because you declared anything loudly, nor because you resisted with outward strength, but because of the incorruptible simplicity and purity of your heart. You may not realize it, but your faithfulness in the smallest of things is what causes all of hell to tremble. I have seen them, the forces that dwell in darkness. They watch you from afar, scrutinizing your every word and action. They are accustomed to manipulating, inciting, twisting the hearts of men. But when they come near you, they find no foothold, no weakness to exploit. They try to awaken fear, but you do not retreat. They attempt to drown you in guilt, yet you cling to my forgiveness as if to a lifeline that cannot be sunk. You are not perfect, but it is your humility, your desire to change, to become more like me, that keeps them from reaching you. You are a living paradox that confounds every strategy of the enemy. And because of that, one who once dwelt in darkness has begun to stir, not with pure love, but with a strange disquiet, because it has never seen a light that made it stop for so long. It has watched righteous people fall to pride, has caused once passionate souls to grow cold over time. But you persist in a way it cannot comprehend. In pain you worship. In silence you trust. In waiting that seems endless, you remain faithful, and that, more than anything, makes it impossible for a dark soul to turn away as it once did. Do you know that my love within you is more powerful than any eloquent sermon? A kind gaze, a quiet act of sacrifice, an embrace without condition? These seemingly small things have the power to shake entire spiritual realms, and you have lived them without seeking applause. You do them out of love, not for recognition. You do them because you believe in me, not because you long for reward. And that is why the darkness takes notice of you. It cannot understand why you remain steadfast when forgotten. It cannot grasp why you don't rebel when wounded. It cannot comprehend why you do not retaliate when misunderstood. The love in you is too real, too deep, too enduring, beyond anything it has ever encountered in a human soul. And now, one among them, a soul that once drowned in darkness, once served as an instrument of destruction, is facing something it has never known. The sensation of being stirred by a soul that lives in the light, not because you set out to convert it, but because your presence is unlike anything it's ever experienced. The light in you does not condemn, does not cast out, yet it does not compromise either. It exposes the emptiness and deceit of darkness simply by existing. It causes souls who thought themselves untouchable to stagger under the weight of your unshakable simplicity. Do not think this is something small. This is a turning point in the spiritual realm. A soul now stands at the threshold between darkness and light, and you are the witness, the sign, the one who sows hope where there once seemed to be none. You do not need to persuade, do not need to preach. Just continue being who you are, faithful, loving, and unwavering. I have placed within you a flame that no force can extinguish, a flame that causes darkness to retreat, and can even stir a longing in one who once stood among the ranks of hell, for something real, something eternal. You do not fight with weapons, but with silent courage. You do not conquer with strength, but with unwavering love. And it is that very love that causes the spiritual realm to tremble. My beloved, do not be surprised if the enemy tries every means to pull you away from the position where you now stand. For they know that as long as you remain in place, the light will continue to spread. Cold walls will continue to crumble. Hearts that have turned to stone will begin to crack, and what once seemed impossible will start to take form. You are not merely living a religious life. You are standing on the front lines of a spiritual battle that many cannot see, yet heaven watches your every step. I am here. I see it all. I am proud of you, and if you could see the map of heaven, you would find a brilliant light marking the place where your name is written, a place the enemy once believed they would conquer. But right there, a soul like yours has shattered their entire strategy to dust. Do not let weariness deceive you. Do not let the long days of waiting cause you to question your worth, for there are things you cannot yet see, but they are shaking the heavens to their core. You have no idea how many souls are being encouraged because of you. How many are watching you and rediscovering hope. You do not know that your steadfastness has become a living testimony of my power and kindness, and you do not yet realize that somewhere a wandering soul is beginning to lean toward the light, all because one person, you, dared to live true to the love I placed within your heart. So keep walking, O chosen one. Love with your whole heart. Live as though every action might save a soul, because truly it can. And remember, I am not merely behind you. I walk beside you. I fight with you. And I rejoice with you in every small victory you win within. Even the smallest things you do out of love are remembered in eternity, and soon you will see the fruit. Not only the transformation in your own life, but the unprecedented spiritual chain reactions, an awakening ignited by your quiet yet blazing life. My beloved, the one whom I have touched with my sacred hand and led out from the ruins of this world, hear my voice clearly. You are never meant to be ordinary. You do not operate by the corrupted rules that darkness has used to manipulate humanity for centuries. You do not bow to threats. You do not conform to the deceitful ways this world celebrates. You do not let yourself be swept away by the alluring fog woven from lies, fear, and false glory. You remain yourself, honest, bold, courageous, and humble. And that is what makes the kingdom of darkness tremble. You may not realize it, but as long as you continue being who you are, faithful, truthful, uncompromising in the face of darkness, you are already delivering one of the greatest blows to the enemy's core. You don't need to shout, you don't need to boast, and yet your very presence disrupts all their seemingly perfect plans. For you are a variable they cannot control, a distinction they cannot replicate, a quiet voice that resounds in the deepest places of the spirit realm. Take a moment to look around this world, and you will see countless individuals who once stood at the pinnacle of fame. Those who were admired by millions, regarded as symbols of wisdom, strength, or virtue. Yet in the end, they did not fall because of swords or storms, but because of wicked whispers and sweetly baited traps. One by one, they were brought down, not because they were weak, but because they did not recognize how they were being lured step by step into darkness. And darkness, like a patient hunter, waited for them to stray too far from the light, then tightened its snare. But you are different. Though your path has been paved with thorns, though the voices around you have grown louder by the day, though loneliness has at times made your heart weary, you have not turned away. You have been tested. There were moments when your tears fell in silence, nights when you cried out in the quiet, wondering why your path was so riddled with anguish. And yet, the miracle is this: you never turned back. You never sold your soul for fleeting comfort. You chose to remain faithful to me, even when it meant letting go of much. You dared to walk away from what was easy in order to preserve what was holy. You did not run from the darkness, but neither did you ever let it define you, and because of that, the enemy fears you. These forces, so accustomed to ruling the minds of men, once brought down the mighty, seduced the courageous, and reduced the pure-hearted to bitter tears. Yet when they encounter you, their old tricks seem powerless. Every lie they whisper, you see right through. Every trap they set, you step past unscathed. Every sweet temptation, you refuse with an unshakable faith. And it is this unshakability that drives them mad. They cannot manipulate you because you are not driven by fame. They cannot bribe you, for your heart is not tethered to illusions. They cannot frighten you, because you know who walks with you. You have passed through fire and were not burned, through floods and did not drown, because I was with you in every moment. And this is what the darkness is beginning to realize. You are not alone. You are one clothed in a power they cannot touch, one who knows to whom you belong and will not be easily swayed. You thought yourself weak, but in truth your honest frailty is an impenetrable wall to the darkness. For every time you admit your limits and run to me, you are robed in another layer of unshakable armor. When you bow your head in prayer, all of heaven leans in to listen. When you sigh in exhaustion, I send my angels to uphold you. And when you choose to stand firm instead of compromising, a portion of the kingdom of darkness trembles. They never expected a soul like yours to exist, a soul that does not seek the spotlight, does not chase applause, does not wait for the world's validation. You simply live out what I have planted in your heart: kindness, faith, patience, and selfless love. And to the darkness, that is more terrifying than any eloquent sermon, any grand achievement, or any calculated plan. Because you act not to prove something, you act because you love me, and that love is too real to be shaken. Now it is they, those who once thought themselves invincible, who are confused. They have tried everything. They whispered doubt into your ears. They stirred up winds of comparison, shame, and sorrow within your soul. But you have not allowed those things to take hold. You have wept, but not abandoned your faith. You have been wounded, but never retaliated. You have been tired, but never surrendered. And that is the greatest victory in this spiritual war, a triumph so few recognize. My child, you have lived a life that darkness cannot comprehend, and because of that, it panics. With every day you continue to exist in the light, with every faithful decision you make, with every prayer that rises from the depths of your heart, you are making a bold declaration to the entire spiritual realm. The light still prevails, and that is the one reality darkness never wants to confront. So stand firm, O chosen one. Remember, you are not fighting alone. I am right beside you, with eyes that see through all things, with a heart that beats in rhythm with yours, and with power that knows no bounds. Even if the storm rages and fire encircles you, my heart holds you fast. Do not let the enemy blur your vision of your own worth. They do not tremble because you wield mighty weapons, but because you carry a heart that cannot be stolen. And do you know this, beloved? Victory is not in never falling, but in rising again each time you fall, stronger, truer, and closer to me. They no longer have dominion over you. Their chains are broken. Their old snares no longer hold sway. For you have been appointed to a mission that no darkness can obstruct, a soul set free, not because you bartered anything away, but because you chose to cling to what is most precious: love, truth, and unwavering loyalty to me. And that alone is a miracle great enough to transform a generation. The enemy once marshaled all their forces to erase your presence from the sacred journey. They plotted, calculated, and crafted every form of attack to numb your soul. From the shadows they watched, waiting for the faintest moment of weakness to strike. But they were not prepared for what was to come. They never expected that instead of destroying you, they themselves would be drawn into the irresistible light that flows from within you. At first they approached with arrogance and disdain. They thought you were like all the others, easily swayed, easily controlled, easily brought down by clever lies. But the closer they came, the more stunned they became by a truth they could not deny. There is a light in you unlike anything they have ever encountered. It is not a blinding, boastful light, nor the glitter of artificial virtue dressed in hollow righteousness. It is a gentle, enduring, silent light, yet sharp as a sacred blade. The light of truth born from pure love and unshakable faithfulness. You don't need to shout to prove your worth. You don't need to brandish power to bring others to their knees. Simply by being, by walking in truth, day by day, you release an unshakable force. It is the force of a soul that knows who it belongs to, who watches over every breath, and because of that it does not waver before opposing winds. The enemy believed they were the hunters, never realizing they were being drawn into a strange pull, a magnetic force that flows from your honesty and courage. They came to ambush and destroy, but slowly they began to feel something foreign to them. A trembling, not the fleeting tremble of emotion, but a deep stirring in the spiritual realm, a recognition that something greater, stronger, and holier dwells within you, and they could not walk away. What makes darkness fascinated by the light? What causes a soul once bound in deception to be drawn to truth? It is because the light in you does not condemn, but neither does it compromise. It is not weak, not manipulative, not desperate to please. It is simply true light, exposing all that is false, yet inviting healing in the same breath. The light in you is the light of life, not sent to destroy, but to awaken a yearning for redemption. That is why the enemy cannot stay away. They are drawn to what they once despised. Your steadfastness has become a divine magnet, pulling at the fractured realms of the spirit. You never intended to mesmerize them. You never sought to influence. But your soul, shaped through suffering and safeguarded by reverent fear of the Most High, has become a sacred ground that even the darkness yearns to enter. Now they stand, not as hunters, but as ones ensnared in the very maze they once designed. Yet this maze is not a mirage of their own making. It is a spiritual web, woven from every faithful act you've carried out, every silent prayer you've lifted, every courageous choice you've made when no one was watching. They cannot escape it, for the light within you has unsettled them to their core, not through domination, but through undiluted truth, not through control, but through authentic freedom. A freedom they have never tasted. They tried to walk away. They tried to distance themselves from you, but they could not. Because the light within you has become a hunger that darkness cannot satisfy. They have lived so long in deceit and manipulation, but in you they glimpse something their souls have always longed for, a spirit unchained by fear, unbought by gain, unmoved by emotional sway. You are living proof that true love still exists, that truth still holds power, and that some souls cannot be deceived. I tell you the truth, a portion of the darkness is beginning to tremble. A part of them is starting to ask, what is happening within me? Why does cruelty no longer satisfy? Why do I yearn for the light in that one? And these very questions mark the beginning of a fracture in a system of darkness that has stood since ancient times. My child, do not be afraid when your light causes the enemy to falter. Do not be confused when they lose their composure. You are not seductive, nor are you enchanting. You are the one who makes truth undeniable. You do not seek control, but the integrity in you dissolves every scheme of deception, like mist before the sun. Do not be surprised if you find yourself standing before souls who once thirsted for blood, now rendered silent by your presence. Do not be afraid when their eyes no longer glare with hatred, but reflect bewilderment, longing, and the struggle of an inner war. For that is the moment when the spiritual realm is witnessing a shaking, a darkness is losing its grip, a soul is standing at the edge of transformation. I have placed within you a power not born of this world, and now it is you who are writing a new chapter in the spirit realm, a chapter not written in the blood of destruction, but in the tears of awakening. You may never know how many souls have been and are still being drawn to the light because of you, not through loud preaching, not through grand miracles, but through the quiet truth of your life, a life surrendered to me, steadfast in silence, fierce in love, and unwavering in faith. You are set apart, not because of what you possess, but because of what you refuse to bow to. In a world where darkness no longer wages war through open violence or bloodshed, but through subtler strategies, whispers, empty beauty, twisted emotions, you are the one who cannot be swayed. The enemy's weapons have never been blunt force. They come like gentle winds, like soothing whispers in the night, like a fleeting thought, small but potent enough to shift an entire destiny. They do not need to force anyone. All they have to do is plant a seed of doubt, a tiny uncertainty about one's self-worth, a fleeting question about the Creator's love, a vague fear about the future. That alone is enough to start many souls down a slippery slope. The enemy does not need to wield a sword to destroy a person. They only need to make that person doubt the light within themselves. They have whispered into the ears of kings, saying, "You are invincible." And then, when pride takes the throne, those who were once humble become tyrants. They have poured venom into the hearts of the righteous. Your pain is pointless. No one sees it. No one cares. And so the pure-hearted begin to grow cold in silence. They do not act with brute force. Rather, they use the very voice inside each person to slowly draw them away from the light, until they no longer recognize when or how they changed. But you have weathered the whirlwind of those cunning lies. You were not lulled by flowery speech. You heard the whispers, but did not allow them to shape your thoughts. You felt the temptation, but did not let your heart grow soft. You faced the illusion, yet still chose to walk the rugged road of truth. And that is what makes you rare in a generation drowning in chaos. It is not that you were never tested. There were moments of confusion, there were times when you almost collapsed. But what sets you apart is that in each of those moments, you returned to me. You did not choose the easy road. You did not let fleeting emotions lead the way. You clung to the truth, like one holding tight to an anchor in the midst of a storm. You have nothing to prove. The steadfastness in your heart is itself the evidence before heaven and earth that this is a soul that cannot be shaken by deception. The enemy has watched you, day after day. They have tested every strategy that succeeded with countless others. They brought seductive voices. They painted pictures of golden futures. They stirred up old wounds, hoping you would shatter from within. But instead of falling apart, you grew more grounded. With every attack, you returned to the quiet place where my true voice speaks. And from that place, you regained your strength. To the darkness, this is a disappointment too unbearable to accept. They cannot understand why you refuse to surrender. They cannot comprehend how, after so many wounds, you still choose to love. Why, when misunderstood, you still choose silence and prayer. Why, in a world of deception, you still choose to speak truth, live truth, and love truth. You do not need to shout, "I belong to the light," for your presence, the way you treat others, and the way you face invisible battles already proclaims it. Do you realize, while the masses chase after illusions, you seek the truth? While others are hypnotized by glamour, you see through to the essence. While many are blinded by applause, you search for my gentle whisper within your soul. And because of this, you are a threat to the darkness, not because you wage war, but because you cannot be conquered. Not because you shout loudly, but because you walk with such quiet conviction that argument becomes unnecessary. And it is this very thing that renders the enemy's schemes powerless before you. And do you know, my beloved, that when you live in the truth, you are not only protecting yourself, you are creating ripples in the spirit realm, souls that have been lulled to sleep by deception. When they look at you, a small spark flickers within them, a spark that I can use to awaken them, if only they dare to look into the truth shining through you. You are not just a traveler on the path, you are a lamp, not a blazing spotlight, but a lamp that never goes out, for it is fueled by faith and unconditional love. The battle you are engaged in does not take the form of noisy skirmishes upon the earth, nor does it echo with the clash of swords on a battlefield of flesh. This is an invisible yet profound war, an unceasing confrontation between truth and falsehood, between divine light and deceitful darkness, between steadfast faithfulness and the temptation to surrender in weakness. Every encounter you have, no matter how ordinary it may seem, is a front line. Every conversation you initiate, every glance you give, every response you choose, each one is a blow, either for the side of light or for the realm of darkness. This battle does not call for bloodshed or explosions, but it shakes the very foundations of human souls. And you, through your humble and unwavering presence, are becoming a force that stirs the heaven. You do not need to speak much. Just your presence alone causes an entire system, woven together by lies, to begin to unravel. The enemy's kingdom is not built of stone or bricks, but of whispered deceit, of false beliefs sown secretly into the hearts of many. It does not rely on grand displays, for even a single distorted thought is enough to lead millions astray. But then you appear, like a faint light in the thick of night, like an unyielding breeze in a poisoned atmosphere, and something unexpected begins to happen. The light within you does not merely survive, it begins to fracture the most intricate structures of darkness. Can you feel it? The tremor starting deep within? It is not a sense of fear, it is the sign of a shifting power. Every whispered prayer of yours, every small yet sincere act of love, every time you refuse to compromise for the sake of my reverence, these are what cause the very ground beneath darkness to crack, not by muscle or might, but by an incorruptible integrity, not by worldly wisdom, but by the unshakable faith and discernment that come from knowing me amid a sea of falsehoods. The first tremor of this spiritual war is not the thunder roaring from the heavens, but that quiet moment when the enemy realizes a terrifying truth. Their old tactics no longer work on you. What once struck fear into countless souls, threats, temptations, doubt, now dissolve like mist before your eyes. You are not enticed by their empty promises. You do not fall into their emotional traps. You do not let fear dictate your future, and that, precisely that, terrifies them. They have watched many brilliant ones stumble. They have seen passionate hearts swept away in storms of self-doubt. They have witnessed the righteous fall halfway through their journey, wearied by relentless trials. But you, my child, you are still standing, not because you are stronger than the rest, but because you have learned to lean on me with every breath. You have discovered how to win in silence. You have learned how to preserve peace in your heart, even in the midst of storms. It is a peace not born from perfect circumstances, but from knowing the solid ground upon which you stand. I do not act to draw attention, yet the light within me compels the darkness to take notice. I do not seek influence, yet the sincerity of my heart stirs something in places untouched by force or reason. Souls that are fractured, lost, and bound by invisible chains, when they encounter me, something within them begins to stir. Not because I compel them, but because I live truthfully, and it is truth that breaks chains, that flings wide the prison doors of the hopeless. Have you ever wondered why you are tested so often? Why pain seems to find you even though you've done nothing wrong? Why you must walk alone among those who do not understand what you are fighting for? My beloved, it is not punishment. It is the evidence that you stand at the front lines of the most critical battlefield. Those who dwell in safety are rarely attacked, but those who carry light, who disrupt the systems of darkness, they are the ones constantly targeted. And you, because you do not belong to the dark, are a constant thorn in the enemy's eye. But take heart. Every step you take, every quiet victory you win, pushes back the darkness, not only from your life, but from the lives of those around you. The ripples you send through the unseen realm are causing a spiritual quake, one that will expose truth, unlock the bound, and reclaim territories overtaken by fear and deception. Beloved child, let nothing make you forget your worth. I see every wound you silently endure. I hear the cries no one else hears. I record each moment you choose forgiveness over retaliation, each time you remain faithful when no one notices, each time you choose to love with a heart still bleeding. And it is precisely these things, small in the eyes of the world, yet sacred in mine, that are tipping the scales in the spirit realm toward the light. Remember Moses, the one chosen to lead my people out of Egypt's bondage. He did not dwell in luxury, though he once had access to it all in Pharaoh's palace. He chose the path of hardship, loneliness, and relentless opposition, even from the very people he was called to save. Yet because he remained steadfast, an entire nation was brought out of darkness. Think of David, the humble shepherd boy I anointed to become king. Before he wore the crown, David endured years of pursuit, misunderstanding, and betrayal. He lived as a fugitive, hiding in deserts, surrounded by fear and disappointment. But in that very darkness, he learned to depend wholly on me, and he became a man after my own heart. Above all, look to my only Son, Jesus Christ the Savior. He came into the world not to be received with flowers and songs, but with hatred, rejection, and ultimately death on a cross. The bearer of purest light was spurned by the very ones he came to save. Why? Because darkness cannot withstand the presence of light. Because truth, no matter how gentle, always reveals the lies it encountered. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:10. You may have heard this scripture before, but now I desire to etch it into your heart as a seal, as a purpose. You are not persecuted because you are wrong. You are attacked because you carry something so right, so real, that no force of falsehood can remain passive in its presence. Those who are called by me often pay the price of solitude, for the path they walk is unlike any other. While others choose convenience, they choose faithfulness. When the world aligns itself with falsehoods, they dare to say no. While the masses chase after compromise, they quietly guard the flame of truth in their hearts. And because of this, they become a target of darkness. My beloved child, do not think you are failing simply because you've been rejected, misunderstood, or wounded. It is in those very moments that I am drawing nearer to you than ever before. When no one else understands, I do. When the world turns its back on you, I open my arms to embrace you. When you feel most alone, heaven is actually rejoicing over you. Every step you take, even those that seem pointless, is leaving a mark on the spiritual map of my kingdom. Do you know why you have become a sharp instrument in my hand? Because you dared to stand in places where no one else would. Those who are willing to suffer for righteousness, for love, for truth, they are never forgotten by me. You are one of them. You have endured harsh words without striking back. You have kept your heart pure amid the filth. You have continued to love, even when your heart was cracked and weary. That is the kind of courage that cannot be seen with human eyes. But I see it, and I do not forget. The tears you've shed in silence, I have gathered like precious pearls. None of them were in vain. One day, when you look back, you will see that it was in the lonely nights and long seasons of endurance that I laid the most solid foundations within your soul. In the moments when no one was watching, you remained faithful, and it was in those unseen moments that heaven recorded your name most clearly. My child, if you are feeling weak and tired, let me remind you of a simple but powerful truth. You were not called to live an easy life. You were called to live a meaningful one. The wounds you carry will one day become testimonies to thousands, showing them that light is still stronger than darkness, that real love can still exist in a world overflowing with deception. Look at your own hands. The calluses do not lie. Look at your heart. A heart that has continued to love, even while it was bleeding. Look back on the road you've walked. Every stumble, every time you rose again, every decision to cling to truth, is proof that you are walking in alignment with heaven's calling. I want you to understand something deeply. What you are doing is far more than simply holding your ground. You are not only standing firm amidst spiritual storms, you are redefining the laws of a sacred battle in ways the enemy never expected. While many souls are being swept into a maze crafted by the enemy, where values are twisted, boundaries erased, and hearts drawn toward the calls of pleasure, emotion, and compromise, you have chosen to remain still, not out of ignorance, but because you understand. You have refused to play the dark game they've been orchestrating for generations. You don't react the way they expect. When they sow fear, you respond with faith. When they ignite hatred, you choose love. When they force you to choose between ease and righteousness, you remain steadfast in what is right, even if it means isolation, suffering, or being misunderstood. You are not swept away by the tide of emotional chaos they conjure. You do not let darkness guide your steps, and you do not lose yourself in the grand yet hollow invitations they offer. It is your quiet but resolute refusal that makes you invincible in the eyes of the enemy. They, the ones who have grown accustomed to manipulating the tides of time, to molding truth into their own image, to twisting wrong into right through vague words and illusory images. They are enraged. They tried to impose their definitions upon you. They assumed you would shatter under the same pressure they've used to crush countless others. For in the history of mankind, they have succeeded time and time again. They've toppled wise men with the poison of doubt. They've sown corruption into the anointed so that they would question their very calling. They've led warriors of truth into deserts of despair, where they perished, forgotten and nameless. They've manipulated kings, turning compassion into tyranny and the will to build into selfish ambition. And now they look at you as just another pawn on their weathered chessboard. They believed that, like many before you, you would eventually bend, that your light would gradually dim, that time would erode your resolve, that one day you would lean into the winds of the world. But you startled them. You did not break. You did not fall apart. You did not get swept into the whirlwind of compromise. Instead, you responded with something they could not withstand: your presence. Yes, your presence. The presence forged in truth, sustained by faith, nurtured through silent prayers and protected by me, has become the sharp sword that pierces the very core of deception. When a mind that is fully awake, pure and untampered, enters a space where lies have taken residence, the lies have nowhere left to hide. They are stripped bare before the light, and that is what darkness cannot bear. Have you ever wondered what happens when one who lives by concealment is forced to stand before a soul that cannot be veiled? When lies come face to face with a heart that has been forged in pain but still retains the tenderness of true love, what remains? They panic. They flee. Yet the more they try to distance themselves from you, the more they are drawn to you, because in you there is a contradiction they fear yet crave to understand. Remember this: light does not need to shout to prove it exists. It only needs to be. And when it is, darkness is instantly exposed. You do not need to justify yourself. You do not need to argue. You only need to remain who you are. The one who refuses to be distorted, who holds integrity in the midst of schemes, who would rather lose everything than forfeit the purity of your soul. And do you know something? That very choice has placed you above every tactic of the darkness. The enemy is familiar with seeing once radiant souls flicker out, with once pure hearts now hardened by life. They are used to breaking faith, little by little, through quiet disappointments, subtle betrayals, and shattered expectations. But with you, those very things did not weaken you. They rooted you deeper in my love. In you, faith is not blind. It is built upon real breaking and real restoration. Your strength does not come from never being wounded, but from remaining standing in spite of the wounds. You are the proof that there are still souls who cannot be bought, that there are still those who know the truth and refuse the easy path simply because it is popular. You are the living symbol of what darkness tries so hard to conceal, that there are people, flawed, yes, but still determined, who choose to walk in alignment with their divine calling. And you know what? I rejoice over you. Every time you choose faithfulness when no one sees, every time you walk in love though you carry wounds, every time you guard your soul under pressure, I see it. I remember. Heaven records it, and hell trembles. You are not merely standing in the middle of a battle. You are rewriting its very rules. You are forcing the enemy to reconsider. You are breaking the cycle of defeat they once boasted was inescapable. And the most beautiful part is this: you are not doing it by becoming wise in the ways of the world or by growing strong in the flesh. You are doing it through reverence, through humility, through truth, and through a faithfulness refined in the fire. So, my chosen one, keep going. Keep living with that steady and powerful presence. Let the light within you continue to shine, not with fanfare, not with noise, but with authority. Let the difference in you continue to disrupt the systems of darkness. Let the awakening in your mind continue to strip away layer upon layer of pretense. Because in the end, it is people like you, those who do not lose themselves in the storms of power, who do not let their faith be swallowed up by doubt, who become the makers of spiritual history. And it is people like you who will be the lamp set upon the hill, unable to be hidden, shining a path for countless souls to find their way to the place where the light never dies. And now, do you see? They are standing there before you, exposed, confused, with no masks left to hide behind. The barrenness of darkness, after all its disguises, after years of manipulation and lies, has finally been brought to light by the unwavering presence you carry. They have no place left to hide, no scheme clever enough to deceive a soul that has been purified by truth. You have forced them to confront the one thing they spent their existence avoiding, the truth of who they really are. So what happens when the deceiver can no longer deceive? When the one who lurked in the shadows, pulling thoughts and emotions like a master puppeteer, finds themselves outmatched? Not by a rival full of cunning, but by someone who refuses to play the game, not because you are clever by the world's standards, not because you wield some extraordinary weapon, but simply because you have chosen to live in truth, to be honest to the core, and to refuse being molded by the false expectations of a broken world. You do not pretend to be strong. You do not wear masks to gain approval. You do not trade your identity for acceptance. And this unprovable authenticity, this quiet steadiness, has become the greatest threat to darkness. You are not fighting them by playing by their rules. You are defeating them by refusing to even sit at the board they set. My beloved child, I know the cost you've paid for that kind of integrity. I've seen the moments you've been isolated, misunderstood, and labeled, simply because you would not merge into the chaotic current of pretense. I've seen the moments your heart nearly gave way, when you wanted to quit, when every attempt to live rightly and truthfully seemed only to bring you pain. But it was in those very moments, unknown to you, that you were planting seeds of liberation for an entire generation. Because what the world often forgets is this: light doesn't need to win by being loud. It only needs to exist. And in that existence, hidden things begin to come into view. Once truth steps in, lies have nowhere to cling. Once sincerity appears, pretense must recede. And when one person, just one, dares to live true to themselves, unshaped by fear or false expectations, that person becomes a mirror, reflecting truth to everything around them. You are the one. When darkness looks upon you, it no longer sees an easy target to manipulate. It sees a soul that cannot be subdued, a soul that has tasted deep pain and still holds on to love, a soul that has been tested to the very edge, yet never lost its tenderness. You are someone who needs no loud proclamations to prove your strength. Your life itself is the loudest testimony. I tell you the truth. Your very presence is causing the polished facades of the enemy to begin to crack. The simplicity in you, unembellished, uncalculated, uncompetitive, is something they cannot touch. It is too real, too deep, too unshakable. You may not even realize that there are some who have lived in lies their entire lives, who have been shaken to their core simply by a look, a kind gesture, or a loving response from you when you were treated unfairly. You don't need grand displays to stir the spiritual battle. You only need to keep living authentically, staying awake, and refusing to compromise. And with each passing day, that alone is breaking the claws of darkness still clinging to the hearts of many. Remember this: the world may not recognize you. What you do may not be applauded, but in the spirit realm, every small action of yours, every time you choose to forgive when it would be easier to retaliate, every time you remain silent when you could defend yourself, every time you choose love in the face of hatred, is a battlefield shaken. You don't need to see it to know that you're causing a shift. It is enough that you remain faithful to the light. I have placed within you something the world cannot steal. No one can strip the truth from you unless you willingly lay it down. And you have not done that. You have chosen to preserve your integrity, to stand firm when everything around you is falling apart, to walk by faith when you cannot see the way ahead. That alone makes you more dangerous to darkness than the mightiest warrior. When one who lives in lies is forced to face the light, they are also forced to see themselves as they truly are. No more masks, no more excuses, no one else to blame. And that is unbearable for them. Because the light in you doesn't just expose, it invites transformation. But to be transformed, they must surrender. And surrender is the one thing darkness never wants to do. So if you find yourself under more attack, more scrutiny, more misunderstanding, do not lose heart. It is not a sign of failure. It is proof that the light in you is making an impact. The enemy does not waste time on those who pose no threat. It throws everything it has only when it senses it is on the verge of being exposed. And you are the mirror, forcing it to see its own distorted image. Not to condemn, but to call to repentance. Not to destroy, but to open a way out. But to walk through that way, they must relinquish power, control, and manipulation. And they fear that more than any judgment. Beloved, do not stop. Do not change just to make life easier. Do not shrink back just because your light unsettles others. Keep being exactly who you are. A person who refuses to dim their light to comfort the darkness. You do not need to become someone else. For when you live true to the essence I placed within you, you are changing the world. One small step, one honest glance, one breath preserved by faith at a time. And when all things are laid bare, when the darkness can no longer hide, when truth is confessed upon every tongue, then those like you, souls untouched by deception, will stand firm. And in that moment, you will hear me call your name, not in a whisper, but in the triumphant roar of heaven. Here is my good and faithful servant, the one who did not bow to darkness, the one who lived in truth, the one who triumphed not by might, but by presence. They, the entities that once believed they could devour you, will then find themselves in an unimaginable reversal. They become the ones unable to escape your gravity. Not the gravity of beauty, talent, or power, but the gravity of a soul rooted in truth, unbound, undefined by the world, and governed by nothing but divine love. That alone is what renders them unable to turn away. They sought to destroy you, yet now they find themselves captive in the orbit created by your unshakable authenticity. You stepped into their domain, not with sword or shield, but with humility and light, and that turned their realm of shadows upside down. They could not control you, and that very inability drove them mad. Yet something even more profound is now unfolding, something only awakened souls can perceive. Darkness, when faced with truth, begins to become aware of itself. It begins to tremble, not from defeat, but from the startling realization of its own distorted nature. And from that, a paradox both tragic and awe-striking begins to form. They begin to love you, but, my child, be vigilant. For the wicked do not love as mortals do. Their affection does not spring from admiration or a desire for connection. They love with a distorted energy, a kind of affection that does not heal but consumes, does not nourish but drains. It is a love rooted in obsession and possession, born of a hunger to dominate what they cannot comprehend. They are drawn to the light in you not because they wish to change, but because they covet what they can never attain through their old ways. They cannot bear your freedom, for freedom is what they fear the most. And in their obsession, they cling to you as though you were the final piece that might rescue them from the void they dare not face. But do you know this, beloved? That very obsession is a thunderous affirmation of your role in the spiritual realm. You are not merely one who endures the storm. You are a mirror of truth, a silent warning to the shadows, a beam of light piercing corners once thought unreachable. And more than that, you are living proof that no force in existence can possess a soul that has chosen to live in the sacred identity I have bestowed. The enemy may circle you, may surround you with temptations, may weave veils of threat and confusion, but they can never reach the deepest part of you, the place where I dwell, where truth resides, where the light never dies. Even if they love you with their twisted addictions of darkness, the true love within you is far greater, and that love does not respond with compromise, but with mercy clothed in sacred boundaries. You were not called to be subdued. You were not born to be the target of toxic obsession. You were called to reflect true love, a love that does not possess, does not control, does not manipulate, but liberates. And you will fulfill that calling, not by becoming part of the darkness that surrounds you, but by standing firm in the light, by living with integrity, by loving rightly, and by speaking truth amidst a sea of lies. My beloved child, hold this close as a covenant between me and you. When you remain in truth, no force can overthrow you. When you choose to live in alignment with the nature I have placed within you, no twisted affection can imprison your soul. And when you allow true love to flow through you, you not only rescue yourself, you become the doorway through which even the seemingly unreachable may find restoration. Therefore, O one whom I have chosen, stand firm. Do not let the confusion of darkness cause you to tremble. Do not let the distorted infatuations of the wicked deceive you into thinking that is true love. Keep loving in heaven's way. Love with truth, with compassion, but without losing your boundaries. Love like a purifying fire, not a consuming blaze. Love like a healing stream, not a flood that washes away identity. Let me reveal to you something wondrous, something you may never have imagined. The enemy, once a symbol of destruction, once a force that terrorized the spiritual realm, is now quietly drawn to your light, not to destroy, not to manipulate or ensnare, as they have done with so many souls before, but to understand. Yes, you heard correctly. Those entities that live and breathe darkness, that once hid in every shadow of fear, that mocked weakness and despised mercy, are now drawn to the very thing they once tried to extinguish in you. They come no longer as predators, but as ones standing on the brink of collapse, confused, yearning, inexplicably magnetized by the quiet light within you. They do not come to control you, but to explore what makes you unconquerable, what allows a fragile soul to stand firm in an endless battle, what allows you, after countless wounds and losses, to still choose tenderness. What allows you, despite rejection, betrayal, and misunderstanding, to not become hardened or cold. That very thing, that true essence of yours, is the beginning of their unraveling. When you do not respond to hatred with hatred, but with silence and forgiveness, they are bewildered. When you choose not retaliation but love, they cannot comprehend it. When you refuse to wield pain as a weapon but instead use compassion as a salve, they are shaken. For the things they once deemed weakness have now become the very things they cannot ignore. Do you remember? There was a time they scoffed at your kindness. They whispered that gentleness was useless, that goodness would only make you a target for suffering. They tried to push you to the edge of hatred, to harden your heart, to make you lose faith in beauty itself, but you did not break. And now, what they once despised has become what they crave most. Because in a world of contradictions, where coldness and pretense reign, you remain a tender soil that is not weak, a genuine heart that is not naive. You have preserved your kindness not because you've never been hurt, but because you walked through pain and still chose not to let it distort your heart. And that very thing has made you a mystery to the enemy, a living paradox they cannot explain. Do you know what happens when someone who lives by lies comes face to face with a person who is utterly sincere? They begin to unravel. They start to realize that true strength is not found in the ability to control others, but in the ability to govern oneself. And when they see you, unshaken, unchanged by applause, and uncorrupted by rejection, they are awakened by something deep within, a hunger for truth. That hunger, once smothered by years of illusion, now begins to stir, and through the cracks within their own hearts, the light from you begins to seep in. Just a little, but enough to make sure they are never the same again. The compassion in you, once dismissed by them as naive weakness, is now the only thing that can reach the last remnants of their humanity. Your kindness does not make you vulnerable. It makes you powerful in a way no sword or spear ever could. You do not need to prove yourself or justify your stance, for your life speaks louder than any defense. It is precisely because you do not seek to dominate that your presence commands the atmosphere. And the truth within you, the very truth they once distorted, rejected, and mocked, has now become the place they secretly return to in their confusion. They tried to use words, images, and emotions to blind the masses, but you, with unyielding faithfulness, have held on to the light. Not in spectacle, but in quiet actions, in meaningful choices. And it is this that gives the truth in you a weight far greater than any rhetoric darkness has ever used to control the world. You don't need to shout to defend what is right. Your genuine life is already a thunderous declaration, and that very life is now creating a profound shift in the heart of the enemy. My beloved, what is happening is not merely the fall of a power. It is a quiet transformation. It is the rising of light in souls once deemed beyond redemption. And you, by simply refusing to bend, refusing to shape yourself to fit any mold, are rewriting the story of transformation. Do not believe that your lack of visible results means you have no impact. Do not think that because the enemy has not bowed, your light is not strong enough. I tell you, every true change begins in stillness. And it is in that very stillness that the towering walls of pride and darkness are beginning to crack. And you, my chosen one, are not merely keeping the fire alive for yourself. You are rekindling flames in souls long extinguished. With your unwavering presence, your uncompromising compassion, and your quiet yet unquenchable light. You are changing not only your own destiny, but also the fate of those who once sought to destroy you. So, continue living as you do. Do not fear when the enemy no longer strikes as before, but begins to approach you with uncertainty, with searching eyes, even with desperation. That is the sign the battle is shifting, and you, yes you, are the immovable pillar in this sacred turning of seasons. You are not merely living for the now. You are laying a foundation for a new generation, a generation that will not be subdued by darkness, nor deformed by hatred. A generation that will carry the light not just in words, but through lives that are genuine, love that is real, forgiveness that is true, and faithfulness that does not waver. And you, Anointed One, are the forerunner. While countless souls have collapsed beneath the weight of darkness, while groans of despair echo from every direction, while weary hearts are crushed by invisible blows of exhaustion, betrayal, and brokenness, you still stand. Not because you have never tasted sorrow, but because sorrow itself became the foundation of your resilience. You have walked through unnamed shadows within your own heart. No one understands the dark like the one who has lived in it without allowing it to consume their soul. You did not merely observe darkness from a distance. You faced it, stood eye to eye with it, heard its whispers in the long, lonely nights, and witnessed its workings in moments where all hope seemed lost. You didn't learn of the dark through books or stories. You came to know it through the sacred fire of personal experience. And the miracle is, you did not let it define you. You have endured loss, silently, but deeply. There were things you once loved, once held dear, once believed in, only to see them vanish from your grasp like dust scattered by the wind. There were those who once promised to walk with you, but turned away and left. There were dreams that once felt eternal, only to collapse in a single breath. You have known pain, real pain. There were moments when it felt like you wouldn't make it, but then, with a strength that rose not from intellect or emotion, but from a heart forged in faith, you stood again. Each time you rose, you didn't simply return. You returned transformed, refined and stronger than ever before. Like gold purified in the fire, your suffering did not destroy you. It sanctified you. It burned away fragility and exposed the unshakable core of a soul who chose light as its inheritance. Do you truly understand what that means? It's more than just the ability to overcome. It's more than patience or mental fortitude. It means you have become untouchable in a way that no force of darkness can lay claim to. The enemy may hurl storms of doubt against you. They may strike with wounds unseen, with betrayal, with stealthy blows from behind. But every time they think you will fall, you rise again, not by your own strength, but by the power of the one who has held you since the beginning of your days. They don't understand why you cannot be conquered. They do not know that what they thought would be your breaking point became the very platform from which you soared higher. They believed that one more blow would shatter you, but what they failed to see is this: you have already been broken. You know the feeling. You have fallen in silence, have endured sleepless nights, have wrestled with wounds no one else could see, but it was in the tearing apart that I gathered every fragment of you and reforged you into something stronger than steel. You are no longer the untested version you once were. You are the product of restoration. You are living proof that when darkness believes it has won, it is precisely the moment when light begins to rise from the ashes. The enemy cannot defeat what I myself have restored. They cannot shatter what has been rebuilt by life, by love, and by untainted truth. And that is why, now, you are their greatest terror. Not because you fight with ferocity, but because you cannot be controlled. You no longer believe their whispers. You are no longer swayed by the seduction of power, compromise, or fleeting pleasure. You have tasted enough to know what truly holds value, and you have chosen to cling to truth, to light, to kindness, even if it means walking alone when it feels like no one else remains. My beloved child, there is nothing the enemy fears more than a soul that has been broken, yet has not lost its tenderness. A soul that has been betrayed, yet still chooses to believe in goodness. A soul that has been trampled by life, yet holds fast to compassion. For such souls no longer fear the darkness. And there is nothing more dangerous to darkness than those who are no longer afraid of it. You are one of those souls. Reflect on the road you've walked, the days when it felt impossible to take another step, the silent hours you wept alone, unseen and unheard, the moments you were forced to let go of what you cherished most. None of it was meaningless. Every tear that fell, every time you chose faithfulness over ease, every moment you chose forgiveness over retaliation, each became a stone laid into the foundation the enemy cannot shake. Do you understand now why they can no longer touch you? Because you are not merely a survivor, you are refined. You are not someone who simply passed through darkness. You are someone who stood in its very midst, walked through it, and carried the true light out from within. That is what renders all their strategies powerless. When a soul knows its worth, when a person no longer seeks validation from the world to move forward, when a heart remains untainted by bitterness even after breaking, then that person has entered a realm the enemy cannot invade. And you, my chosen one, are such a person. Keep walking, even when you feel weak, weary, or unsure. Do not forget, it is in that very weakness that my strength is revealed. It is when you had nothing left to hold on to that I became your unshakable foundation. And it is when you thought you had lost everything that you were, in truth, being rebuilt, stronger, more radiant, and closer to me than ever before. Yes, the enemy will still lurk. They will try to send winds of doubt to buffet your soul, but you are no longer swayed, because now you know, what comes from me can never be destroyed. And you, a soul loved, redeemed, and recreated, are the clearest proof of that truth. My beloved, as you walk through the tremors of these times and tread the edge between light and darkness, you are not merely a warrior wielding the sword of truth. You are a sanctified soul, chosen to usher transformation into a world clouded by hatred and deception. You were not sent to destroy, for destruction is the act of weakness masked as strength. My heart does not seek annihilation. I seek healing, and you carry within you that very breath, the spirit that can transform any atmosphere you enter, from brokenness to wholeness, from chaos to harmony, from resentment to forgiveness. In the great symphony I have orchestrated, your every step resounds not with the clash of swords, but with the heartbeat of one restored by mercy. It is that presence that causes darkness to tremble, for they cannot manipulate what has transcended all boundaries of fear, divine mercy. The enemy may confront a warrior, but they are powerless before a soul that loves unconditionally, for that love is not merely a feeling, It is a decree issued from heaven, etched into the very essence of your being, since you were but a breath in my divine imagination. You are not one who merely sees what is on the surface. You pierce through the thick skin of deception, move beyond the facade of authority, and reach into the most vulnerable depths of your adversary. The buried memories, the unheard cries, the longings suffocated in the endless night. You see the lost fragments of humanity in them, and because of that, you are the greatest threat to the darkness, not because you destroy it, but because you force it to face itself, a confrontation it has always tried to avoid. Transformation does not come through blows or condemnation. It comes through insight, through your silent yet powerful presence. When you enter a room, the atmosphere shifts. When you remain silent, hearts begin to stir. When you look someone in the eyes, it feels as though their very soul is laid bare. This is no coincidence. It is because you carry within you a light that has been refined through sorrow, through trials, and through the long journey back to truth. The enemy has tried everything to make you doubt yourself: rejection, cunning lies, enticing distractions. But you have remained standing, not because you are perfect, but because you are faithful. You do not keep going because you are never tired, but because you have chosen not to give up. And that very choice is what has shattered the age-old tactics of darkness. They never expected that a heart once broken could become a dwelling place for divine power. They cannot comprehend that your weakness is where I do my greatest work. My beloved child, it is when you stop trying to fight by the ways of the world and simply show up as you are that the light within you begins to transform the very layers of the space around you. When you do not rush to speak, but listen with spiritual ears, you are clearing a path for healing. When you do not retaliate against offense, but respond with stillness, you are dislodging the spirit of deception from its throne. True transformation is never loud. It unfolds quietly like dawn unraveling the night, like a seed breaking open beneath the earth. And you, my chosen one, are the spring arriving for hearts long frozen in winter. Do not underestimate the power of a single embrace, a gaze filled with compassion, or a gentle word spoken from the deepest place of love. Do not diminish the impact of simple presence saturated in light. The enemy trembles not at your grand declarations, but because it senses the eternal dwelling within you. And that is why, even though you lift no hand to destroy, the darkness is undone. Not by physical strength, but by the waves of love steeped in truth. You are an instrument of restoration. You do not merely confront the world, you unveil another realm, where grace surpasses judgment, where healing outweighs division, where mercy triumphs over all bitterness. And to do this, you have been forged through tears, through long nights of solitude, through silent sacrifices unseen by human eyes. But I see them, and I remember each moment as a sacred song rising from the depths of your soul, ascending to the throne of glory. You are not merely one who walks through the dark. You are a lamp that will not go out. And the light within you does not come from this world. It comes from me, the one who breathed life into you, the one who placed my hand upon your brow and declared, "You are mine." So do not be surprised when the enemy tries everything to make you falter. They know what is coming. They see in you the sign of a harvest of souls. They recognize that your presence signals the end of a silent era and the beginning of a time when truth will be proclaimed, not just with words, but with a life fully lived. Continue to stand where you have been called. Whether it's from the pulpit, in the kitchen, in a quiet town, or the bustle of a busy city, your presence is the key. Do not doubt your impact just because there are no stage lights. True glory does not require the attention of man. It requires the companionship of the Spirit. And the Spirit is with you, moving through you, establishing within you a launching pad for the unimaginable. Beloved one, you are not only changing the world around you by what you do, you are transforming it through the very person you are becoming. That is the true transformation. Not an external revolution, but an inward awakening that reverberates through the spiritual realms. And as you keep walking, every step you take becomes a quiet yet resolute declaration that love is stronger than death and that light can never be extinguished by darkness. So go forth, chosen one, not to destroy but to bring life, not to tear down but to build, not to gain victory in the eyes of men but to become a living testimony of the divine restoration I am bringing to this world. For through you I am composing a symphony of grace. Through you I am giving form to promises long spoken. And through you the darkness will know that the time has come to bow before a power both tender and unshakable. The power that flows from the eternal heart. Now come before me and lift your heartfelt prayer. Lord, I bow before your presence, the one who wove my soul with threads of flawless light. Remind me daily that I do not belong to the crowd, that I was not born to blend into the patterns of this world, but to be true light amidst the shadows. When I forget my worth, whisper into my ear the truth that only you can repeat. I am the one you have chosen. Lord, each time I face the silent storms of life, grant me the courage not to retreat. Let the winds roar. Let the voices of others cut deep. Let the darkness press in. Still, help me stand, not by my own strength, but by the power you pour through me. Keep the lamp within me burning bright, even if everything around me crumbles. Lord, I ask that you protect the light within me from being stained by the lies of this world. Do not let my heart compromise just to be accepted. Make me the kind of light that darkness cannot counterfeit, cannot comprehend, yet is drawn to in holy confusion. I do not need to be seen. I just need to be real. Lord, when I am misunderstood, labeled, or left alone because of my honesty and the light within me, be my hiding place. Help me not to let wounds harden my heart. I want to keep loving, keep forgiving, keep being kind, even when there is no return. Keep my soul tender in the truth. Lord God, when the enemy surrounds me, when weariness knocks at the door of my spirit, be the solid rock beneath my feet. I don't want to live by feelings, but by the word you've spoken. Teach me to stand firm in faith, not letting doubt overtake me, not letting fear define me. Make me a silent tremor that shifts the spiritual realm. Lord, I lift up to you every wound yet to heal, every part of me that has broken. I believe that what the enemy intended for harm, you will use for restoration. From the shattered pieces of my life, craft something new, stronger, truer, and closer to you. Use even my ruin as the foundation for something the darkness cannot touch. Lord, if the light within me can reach a soul standing on the edge between darkness and truth, please let me become a living testimony. Let my life speak louder than words. Let it be strong enough to move hearts. If there is a soul wandering in fear, in pain, or in deception, may the light you placed in me become a signpost guiding them home. Lord, Keep me from pride in the light you have given. Help me always remember that every light within me comes from your divine presence. Let me not become self-righteous, but grant me a deep humility, a heart that loves without judgment, stands firm without disdain, and teaches without control. Lord, there are battles within the soul that no one sees, battles with emotions, with lies, with seductive calls from the darkness. I offer up every silent victory to you when I choose love over anger, when I choose forgiveness over revenge, when I choose faithfulness over retreat. Please remember each of these in eternity. Lord, keep me aligned with the soul you breathed life into, a soul not ruled by fear, not swayed by praise or criticism, not shaken by temporary gain. Let me become what darkness cannot comprehend, a soul that is free, holy, and guarded by the unconditional love of heaven. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. If you love the Lord, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the life-giving and meaningful messages from God. Together, we will grow in faith and live a life made whole in His love. Amen.